Hi guys, so a client of mine sent me this image to recreate this piece in crochet, and once I posted it on the internet, most of the comments were very positive, saying that my version was much better than the inspirational piece. I don't know how true that is, but today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful skirt. We have already learned how to make the matching top, so if you haven't yet checked it out, make sure after this video you rush over to the top design. So this is an inspiration of a knitted design recreated in crochet, and this is how I did. At the end of the video, when you're done recreating this design, let me know in the comment section how you liked the video and how you liked the outcome of your piece. Did I do a much better job at recreating this knitted design, or is the knitted inspiration much better to you? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And unfortunately, I had already sold the piece, and now I have to recreate the skirt all over again. But yeah, I'm going to take you through the step-by-step process of how to make this beautiful skirt. It's a multicolored crochet skirt, and you can pull out all your scrap yarn and pick out the colors that you want to use. The materials that you will need are a measuring tape, 4mm crochet hook, a darning needle, and a pair of scissors, maybe some stitch markers. Just have some of those because you're going to use them while creating the increases. This is a made to measure piece of design, and yeah, multicolored, as you can see here. Pick any colors of your choice. And when it comes to the yarn, I used multiple different types of yarn. Some of it is DK weight, some of it is light fingering weight yarn. So for example, just take a look at this yarn. The yarn is very thin, and I had to double the strand in order to match the thickness of the other colors that I used for the project. And yeah, you're going to try to get the same thickness of yarn throughout the project. Otherwise, some places may be a little thin and some may be a little thick. Now let's have a look at another sample of color that I used for this project. All right, now when it comes to this green color, as you can see, the strand is quite thick, and I used a single strand. So you're going to just collect scrap yarn, any colors of your choice. For me, I stayed true to the inspirational photo, and those are the colors that I'm going to be using. But you can use literally any colors of your choice, but make sure the thickness of the yarn is quite very similar, and this will give you a very perfect look for your design. So look at that. So at some point I'm using 2 strands, and then at some point I'm using 1 strand because I am using different types of yarn. And if you would like the written pattern for this skirt, it's already available on all my online shops, as well as the matching top. So I'll be leaving all the details in the description box below, and let's get right into the video. Right, for this design, we're going to start off with the ribbing of the waistband of the design or the skirt. So you're going to make a slip knot and make a chain of 11. So this is how thick the waistband is going to be. So you're going to go into the second chain from the hook, insert your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all. That's a single crochet. Continue to single crochet in each and every chain across. You insert your hook, pull up a loop, and yarn over, pull through all. So single crochet once in each and every chain. So we're going to end up with a total of 10 single crochets because the 11th was a turning chain. So this is what your row 1 should look like. For row 2, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. And into the back loop only, you're going to place a single crochet. We're still placing single crochet stitches, but going into the back loop of each and every stitch. You can see that. You go into the back loop of the stitch and place 1 single crochet. So this is going to create a ribbed effect for our waistband and also to create something stretchy. So you should end up with the same exact number of stitches as the previous row. So since I had a total of 10 single crochets for row 1, I should have a total of 10 single crochet back loop only for row 2. So this is what you have. Row 3, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work and repeat row 2. Into the back loop only, you're going to place 1 single crochet, back loop only. So you're going to repeat this again and again until this can wrap around your waist without stretching. Okay, so you see that? Chain 1, turn your work and single crochet, back loop only in each and every stitch. So we're going to end up with the same exact number of stitches for each and every row because we are not creating any increases or decreases. So since my row 1 had a total of 10 stitches, I'm going to maintain 10 stitches until I grow this band to wrap around the waistline of my client. Alright, so the person wearing this piece has a waist circumference of 26 inches. So I'm going to keep growing this band until it measures 26 inches without stretching. Alright, so you're going to keep working this until you get your waistline circumference without stretching. So my work is folded into half, and this should be measuring half of the waist circumference, which is 13. So the total waist circumference is 26 for my client, and I just folded it over so that we can have the whole piece in frame. So once you get that, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Make sure your waistband is not twisted. We're now going to join into a round. As you can see this, you just make a chain of 1 and bring this other end of the waistband, and we're going to place a slip stitch into each and every stitch, joining the 2 panels together. So into the first stitch and in each of the next stitches, just keep placing a slip stitch. So you can even use a darning needle if you wish. Alright, so I'm joining my very last stitch, and this is the same line of our piece. Now you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work to the side that doesn't have this bulge. So onto this side, this is the right side of our work. You're going to flip it over, and we're going to start working the lower body of the skirt, and this is past the waistband. Now we're going to start building the lower body of the skirt, And we're going to first clean up the edge of our piece using a half double crochet stitch. So you're going to get a stitch marker, just have it there, and you're going to go into the very first row of the ribbing with a half double and then mark the very first stitch, and then continue to half double crochet in each and every row. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and then go into the next row with a half double, and then into the next with a half double. So we are cleaning up the edge. I prefer to go into here, this space here, and then into this space that is created here. That's how I prefer to clean up the edge. But just make sure you have the same exact number of half double crochet stitches as the rows that you have made for the waistband. That's how to track that you're on the right track for your project. So just clean up the base of the ribbing with a half double crochet stitch all the way around. Alright, so we're coming to the end of the round, and I'm still placing a half double crochet in each and every row of the waistband. So when you come to the end, so we've come to the end of the round, and I've just placed a half double crochet into the very last row of the ribbing. Now I'm going to remove my stitch marker, just like this, and I'm going to make a slip stitch into the very first half double crochet of this round. Insert your hook and pull through all. So that marks the end of the cleaning up at the base of the ribbing. Now we're going to introduce the textured stitch as you saw on our final piece. So the texture that I am going to use for this design is the lemon peel stitch, and I'm going to be playing around with several colors in order to achieve the effect that you saw on the final piece. Now I'm going to consider, I'm not going to consider these as the rows that I'm going to count, so I'm going to start with row 1. Now this is going to be row 1 of the texture of the skirt. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous round. You're going to go another thing that you have to consider is an even number of stitches all the way around the half double crochet round. So you make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Into the very first stitch you're going to place 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch you're going to place a double crochet. So we're going to keep alternating between single crochet and double crochet all the way around. Single, double. If you prefer to place a stitch marker into the very first stitch, please do so. This is going to help you locate where the round starts and ends. But remember, we already have a bulge here, more like a seam line. And if you're just eyeballing, this is the point where you have to consider the seam line to be located. So continue to place single crochet in the next stitch, double crochet into the next, single, and then double, single, double, and go all the way around doing this. So this is round 1 of the texture of the skirt. I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Alright, so we are coming to the end of the round, and this is a double crochet, a single crochet into the next, and then a double crochet into the very last stitch. Make sure you end with a double crochet in the very last stitch. Now we're going to remove our stitch marker and slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. So this marks the end of round 1 of the textured stitch. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So remember, this is a single crochet where we placed slip stitch. So after your chain of 1 here, you're going to go into the next double crochet and place a single crochet. Remember, you turn your work, you always work in the opposite direction of the previous round. So a single crochet into the double crochet here, and then a double crochet into the next single crochet. You should notice that the double crochets are quite long and then the single crochets are short. So in every double crochet you place a single crochet, and then in every single crochet you place a double crochet. And that's how you're going to achieve the texture that we want. So right now you may not see the texture clearly, but as we keep working, you're going to be seeing that texture forming. Oh, and by the way, before we go any further, you're going to place your work like this. We are going to mark increase points of this design. Just place your work like this, and then you're going to get 2 stitch markers. I have mine here. You're going to make sure that the seam line, remember where we placed the slip stitches to join the ribbing into a round, you're going to make sure that it's in the middle, and then you're going to mark 2 stitches on the side and make sure those 2 stitches are double crochet stitches. So I'll mark this one. Make sure that the stitches that you mark on the side of the piece are double crochet stitches. Okay? So once you mark these 2, and this is the one that marks the beginning of the round. So at this point, these 2 points, we are going to be increasing in order to get a comfortable fit for our piece. Remember, this was half of our waistline circumference, and we want to have half of our hip circumference when stretched at the base of the piece. So the hip circumference that I am considering for this design is 40 inches, and I should be able to get that circumference when I stretch the base of my piece. But for now, I'm at around 16.5, and I want a total of 20 inches because this is considering half the measurement, because we have this side and this side. So once you stretch the base of your piece, we should be getting half of our hip circumference, but we are not yet there. That means we have to create increases on the sides of our piece. So let's see how to do that. So pick up from where you left off and keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet until you get to your first side stitch marker. So this is the second round of the textured stitch, or the lemon peel stitch. Alright, so I'm placing a double crochet in the single crochet before the double crochet with the stitch marker. Now I'm going to remove the stitch marker from this double crochet, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, and another single crochet, all in the same stitch, and then I'm going to mark the middle double crochet just like that. That will be an increase point in the rounds to come. So from here you're going to make a double crochet into the next single crochet, and then a single crochet into the next double. So keep alternating between the 2 stitches until you get to your second side stitch marker, where we shall also create an increase. Alright, so we are approaching the second side stitch marker, and we are placing a double crochet into the single crochet before the double crochet with the stitch marker. So you're going to remove the stitch marker from this double crochet and do the same exact thing that we did at this point. So into that stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place 3 stitches, 1 single, 1 double, and another single, all in the same stitch. And then you're going to mark the middle double crochet, and then continue to double crochet into the next single, and then single crochet into the next double, and keep alternating between the 2 stitches until the end of the round, which is at this point where we have this stitch marker. So keep alternating between the 2 stitches, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Okay guys, we have reached the end of the second round of the textured stitch, and we're placing a double crochet into the very last stitch. Make sure you end your round with a double crochet into the last stitch, and then you're going to remove your stitch marker and slip stitch into the very first single crochet of the round. Now I'm going to make a chain of 1 because it's time for me to switch colors. Make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and this is what we have. What we've just done is the increase round of our design. So we're going to attach our next color. As you can see, this is a much thicker yarn, and I'll be using a single strand of it. So this is milk cotton, and as I had mentioned at the beginning, this is a beautiful project to use scrap yarn or any leftover yarns. So you're going to make a slip knot, and we're going to attach our yarn in a way that we are working in the opposite direction of the previous round. So make sure you're working in the opposite direction. You can see this round is facing this side, so I'm going to go in the opposite direction of the previous round, and I'm going to attach my yarn in this double crochet right next to this tail that I've left behind, and I'm going to attach my yarn there or my next color, and I'm going to make a chain of 1 and single crochet into the same exact stitch. Now at this point, you're going to decide whether to weave in your tails as you go, but for me, I think I'll weave them in later on. So you're going to single crochet into the very first stitch, and then you're going to mark the first stitch of the round, and then double crochet into the next single crochet, single crochet into the next double, and double crochet into the next single. So this is round 3 of the textured stitch, and this is going to be a non-increase round. So you're just going to go all the way around without placing any increases on your project. Round 3 of the textured stitch. I'm going to show you what happens when it comes to the sides of the piece where you have to create increases, because for this round we're not going to create any increases. Okay, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet in the next, and double crochet in the next. So this is what we have, and we are going to remove the stitch marker from this double crochet, and then you're going to place one single crochet into the double crochet that had the stitch marker. Now you're going to replace the stitch marker into the single crochet that you just placed in the double crochet that previously had the stitch marker, and then you're going to double crochet into the next single, single crochet into the next double, and repeat that all the way until you get to your second side stitch marker along the increase side. Alright, so we are almost approaching the second stitch marker, and I'm placing a double crochet right before the stitch with the stitch marker. So you're going to remove your stitch marker along the increase side, and then you're only going to place one single crochet there, and then you're going to mark that single crochet, and then continue to double crochet into the next single, single crochet into the next double, and keep alternating between the two stitches until the end of the round. So you're going to feel free to keep switching colors as you wish, but you have to know which round is an increase round and which one is a non-increase round. So what we are working right now is a non-increase round. We are almost coming to the end of round 3 of the textured stitch. Alright, so I'm going to do 2 rounds of this color, and then I'll switch onto the next color. So single crochet into the next stitch, and into the very last stitch you're going to place a double crochet. Make sure you always end your round with a double crochet and always start with a single crochet. So you're going to remove the stitch marker from the very first stitch, and you're going to slip stitch into it. Just like that, we are done with round 3. And as I had mentioned, I'm making 2 rounds of this color. So I'm going to make a chain of 1 and turn my work, and then single crochet in the double crochet here. So this will mark the very first stitch of round 4, and round 4 is also going to be a non-increase round. So you're going to make a double crochet into the next single, single into the next double, double into the next single, and keep alternating between the 2 stitches until you get to your first side stitch marker along the increase. Excuse me. So you can see how the texture already looks lovely, but as we keep adding colors, it's going to look even more and more beautiful. The color effect is the highlight of this design. So we are approaching the very first side stitch marker along the increase. So double crochet and then single crochet in the double crochet before the stitch with the stitch marker. So remember, now our stitch marker is in a single crochet stitch. Now we're going to place 1 double crochet in that stitch that had the stitch marker, and then mark that double crochet. And then you're going to continue single crochet into the next, double crochet into the next, single crochet into the next double, and and double crochet into the next single. So keep alternating between the two stitches. Until the second side stitch marker along the increase, and we shall do the same exact thing that we've done here. We are not creating any increase for this round. So we've reached the second side stitch marker. I'm placing a single crochet in this double crochet right before the single crochet with the stitch marker. Remove the stitch marker, and then you're going to place a double crochet in that single crochet, and then replace the stitch marker into the new double crochet that was placed into the single crochet that had the stitch marker previously. And then you're going to place one single crochet into the next double, and then one double into the next single, and keep alternating between single and double all the way to the end of the round, where we have the stitch marker that marks the beginning of the round. So this is round 4, and it's also a non-increase round. Alright, so we've come to the end of the round, and I told you we always end our rounds with a double crochet stitch. Now you're going to remove this stitch marker, and you're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. And since I'm going to switch colors at this point, I'm going to make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn. If you're not going to switch colors, you just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. So these are our side stitch markers, as you can see, and you can see the work trying to spread out in order to create room for the hip circumference. So we're going to go on to round 5 of the textured stitch, and I'm going to reintroduce my first color, but you can go on and use any color of your choice. So for me, I'm going to go back to my first color, and I'm going to make sure that I am working in the opposite direction of the previous round. I'm going to attach my yarn in the double crochet right next to this tail, just like I did when I was switching colors before. I'm going to attach my yarn, make a chain of 1 and single crochet into that same exact stitch. And then I'm going to mark the first stitch of the round, just as we've been doing before. And round 5 of the textured stitch is actually going to be an increase round. So after your single crochet here, you're going to place a double crochet into the next single crochet, and then a single crochet into the next double, double into the next single, and keep alternating between the two stitches until you get to your first stitch marker along the increase. All right, so we are approaching our very first stitch marker at the increase point. So single crochet into the next double and double crochet into the single right before the double crochet with the stitch marker. Now you're going to remove your stitch marker from here, and into that stitch with the stitch that had the stitch marker, you're going to place one single crochet, one double crochet, and another single crochet, all in the same stitch, and then you're going to mark the double crochet in the middle. So you should notice that this resembles round 2 of the textured stitch where we created increases. So I just had to bring it back so that you can see exactly what's happening. And then you're going to place one double crochet into the next single crochet into the next double, and keep alternating between the 2 stitches until you get to the stitch marker along the increase side, the second stitch marker at the increase point of the design. So you can see what this is creating. I'm going to go all the way across, alternating between single crochet and double crochet, and when we get here we shall also create an increase just as we did here, and then go ahead and finish up the round. I'll meet you back at this point just to demonstrate one more time, and then I will give you the breakdown of what you're supposed to do from then onwards. All right, so we're approaching our second stitch marker along the increase side, and I've just placed a double crochet in the single crochet right before the double crochet with the stitch marker. I'm going to remove this stitch marker from the double crochet, and into that double crochet I'm going to place one single crochet, one double crochet, and another single crochet, all in the same stitch. And then you're going to mark the middle double crochet that you just placed, and then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet, making sure that you always place a double crochet in the single crochet from the previous round and a single crochet in every double crochet from the previous round, and wind up your round. Also making sure that you end your round with a double crochet. So you should notice that round 5 is basically the same as round 2 of the textured stitch. So that means the moment you get done with round 4, you're going to just keep repeating round 2 to 4. It's a 3-row repeat, so there is 1 increase round and 2 non-increase rounds. So once you're done with round 4, you just repeat round 2, 3, and 4, 2, 3, and 4, again and again. And it doesn't matter how you switch your colors. Feel free to experiment with any color combination of your choice, or you can follow mine if you fell in love with my color placement. Sorry. Or you can follow mine if you fell in love with my color placement. You can get the same exact colors as mine, and you follow that in order to get the same exact color effect as mine. So let me see, how many rounds did I do for mine? I think here I have 2 rounds still, so I'm done with round 5, and round 6 is basically going to be the same as round 3, and round 7 will be the same as round 4. So just keep repeating from round 4, just keep repeating rounds 2 to 4 again and again, and you should notice that your piece should be spreading out in order to create hip coverage. So at this point, you see, we have grown up to 17 point around 2. Before we were at 16.5, but now the base of our piece has grown to around 17 inches. and we want half of the hip circumference, which is 20 inches. That means I'm going to just keep repeating rounds 2 to 4 until the base of my piece is half of the hip circumference, which is 20 inches. And I will meet you back when I have that finished. I'm going to just keep placing my colors the way I want, and by the time I get to 20 inches at the base of my piece, I will be back and show you how my work will look like. All right, guys, we kept repeating rounds 2 to 4 again and again, and you can see the side of our piece spreading out to create coverage for the hips. And once you get half of your hip circumference when stretched, as you can see, without stretching we are at around 18 inches, but when stretched we can go up to 20 or even beyond. Don't overstretch your work, because at the end of the day we still want to keep the texture of our piece intact. So just give it a good stretch, not so much, and it should be stretching to half of your hip circumference. And once you get to that point, it's time for us to remove the stitch markers on the sides, the ones that were locating where we were creating the increases along the side of our piece. And now from now on, you're going to just make a chain of 1 and turn your work. This is a non-increase round, and you're going to go into the first double crochet with a single crochet and into the next single crochet with a double crochet. You can mark the first stitch, but it's totally optional. If you can eyeball and locate where the round starts from, then you don't need this stitch marker. And from now on, you're going to just place 1 stitch in each and every stitch. So depending on whether you have a double crochet, you place a single crochet, and if you have a single crochet, you place a double crochet. Just keep alternating between the 2 stitches, and from this point onwards we are not going to be increasing at all. We're just going to be working plain rounds of the houndstooth stitch or the lemon peel stitch, and we're going to grow the length of our piece. So you can see right now I'm at about 6 inches, and I'm going to just keep repeating the plain round of no increases until I get to my desired skirt length. Alright guys, as you keep working the plain rounds, I have actually just worked like 2 of them, but once you stop increasing on the sides of the piece, you should notice that the direction of your piece is starting to change. As you can see here, before we were spreading outwards to create coverage for the hip circumference, but now we're going all the way down, and you can also notice it on this side as well. So this is what your work should look like at this point. It should no longer be increasing towards the side. Now it's going flat all the way down. So if I'm to zoom out a little bit, you should be seeing that effect happening on the sides of the piece. We're just growing the length but not increasing it at this point. So just keep working your non-increase rounds until you get your desired length. Guys, when it comes to the waistband, I ended up putting a drawstring in the ribbing of the waistband just to give it a perfect fitting. And as you can see, I'm just cleaning up the final touches of the piece, and I ended up adding some tassels to the ends of the drawstring. And you will be seeing what the final look is like. This was just a demonstration of what I did for my client because the piece was actually already taken, so I had to redo the whole recording and recreate the beginning of the piece. But I hope the instructions were clear. I'm going to just go ahead and keep repeating this, and I'm going to show you what the final look of my piece looks like at the end of the video. So thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.